Yo. How come I can't see the full screen of this? What if I do presenter view? anybody's in here. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to figure out how to get this full screen. All right. I think I fixed it, guys. I think I fixed it, guys. This quality sucks. You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna fix the quality later. We can deal with it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Hold on. All right, it's working. It's just a little delay. Okay, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm a little late, but it's okay. Welcome to my presentation. It's called Hanging at the Barnhart. Okay, I'm investigating the alleged hanging at C. Paul Barnhart Elementary School. All right. What if let's do it. All right, so hanging at the Barnhart. All right, this is the investigation of the alleged hanging at C. Paul Barnhart Elementary School. All right. Now here's the story. So from the information that I was able to gather, okay, from my investigation, on the afternoon of Friday, November 15th, 2024, we have Carrie Burke, the principal of C. Paul Barnhart, issuing a letter to parents, guardians, and staff. All right, the letter is explaining that two students were horse playing in the school bathroom. Okay, one of the students' jacket got caught in the stall door hook. The other student was unable to free the entrapped student. He leaves him to seek help from the school administration. All right, so the kid who is horse playing with his associate, all right, if you will, he leaves the bathroom after one of the children gets entrapped. Okay, he gets his jacket caught on a hook. The kid is unable to help him, so he goes and gets staff administration. Okay, and the staff responds and they call 911 for additional precautionary medical support. Notice the quotes. Okay. Now, to give you all some context, I have the original news clipping, so we're gonna watch that, and then we're gonna move on to the next slide. Bruh. Do I have to be in presenter view? Sorry, one quick second, guys. All right, I don't think that helped. Fuck it, we just gonna do it like this. All right, we just gonna do it like this. So again, just to recap. All right, the story of this alleged incident is that on the afternoon of Friday, November 15th, 2024, Carrie Burke, the principal of C. Paul Barnhart, issues a letter to the parents, guardians, and staff of the school. Okay, the letter is talking about how two students were allegedly horse playing in the school bathroom. All right, one of these students' jacket got caught on a stall door hook. The student who got caught on the hook was unable to free themselves from the hook, and the other student that was with them was unable to help them as well. So that student left the bathroom to get staff and administration. Staff assisted and promptly called 911 for additional support. Okay, here's the video I was talking about. By the way, guys, all the sources and stuff are embedded or linked. I have a page with it just in case anybody wants to, go and research this incident for themselves, which I recommend. All right, let's play the video.
Child is recovering after an incident at his elementary school. The boy's mother says the 7-year-old was hanged in the bathroom by a 4th grader. Alexis Wainwright at our sister station in Washington, D.C. spoke with the parents who say though they are grateful to still have their son with them, they want answers.
I spoke with the parents who say they're angry, hurt, and confused, but also thankful that their son is still here. Now they're calling.
In Charles County, Maryland, a child is recovering after an incident at his elementary school. The boy's mother says the 7-year-old was hanged in the bathroom by a 4th grader. Alexis Wainwright at our sister station in Washington, D.C. spoke with the parents who say though they are grateful to still have their son with them,
They want answers. I spoke with the parents who say they're angry, hurt, and confused, but also thankful that their son is still here. Now they're calling for transparency and answers from the Charles County Public School District.
If you look at my son, he has marks under his eyes, like blood vessels.
He still has bruises on his neck from being choked.
It's hard to hide emotion as these two parents who don't want to be identified talk about their son. They're hoping for answers after they say their son was hung by a 4th grade student in the boys' bathroom Friday.
He's traumatized. It's going to take time. This is not something that he's going to get over just overnight.
Paperwork from the hospital lists one of his injuries as a neck contusion, which is caused by blunt trauma to the neck. The 7-year-old is a 2nd grader at C. Paul Barnhart Elementary School in Waldorf. Charles County Public Schools says they're aware of the incident and sent a statement saying, in part, 2 of our students were reportedly horseplaying in a school bathroom when one student's jacket got caught on a stall door hook. The student was not able to free themselves, and the other student involved was also not able to help them.
It doesn't make sense to me. If you're horseplaying, how do you get caught on a hook? We need answers. I want answers, and we won't stop until we get answers.
And now the parents say they're sharing their side of the story in hopes of preventing this from happening to anyone else.
My son did tell me that when they were in the bathroom, he said that the little boy told him, I'm going to show you how I beat people back in the day. That's why I feel like it's bullying, because it's no telling how many other kids this has happened to.
And they want the school district to step up.
I want to see a policy in place. I would like to see at least hallway monitors. I want to know why is a 4th grader in the same hallway or the same bathroom as a 2nd grader. Most schools have them divided. I feel like this is very unacceptable.
These are all our children, and they are the future. So we just, we need to protect them. We sending our kids to schools every day thinking that they are safe.
The 7-year-old has since been released from the hospital and is still recovering. His parents tell me that he won't be returning back to school, and they hope to hear more updates from the district soon. Alexis Wainwright, WUSA 9.
All right, so y'all kind of get the gist of the story. All right, the 2nd grader, who we know was in the bathroom with a 4th grader. They were allegedly horseplaying. Again, one person got caught on a hook. The other person went out to get help. All right, that's the story we're told. Let's move on. So, guys, here is Principal Carrie Burke's actual letter. Okay, I was able to find it, and it reads November 15, 2024. That's the date it was sent out, and it reads, "Dear parents, guardians, and staff, I want to update you on a situation that occurred today at C. Paul Barnhart Elementary School. This afternoon, 2 of our students were reportedly horseplaying in a school bathroom when one student's jacket got caught on a stall door hook. The student was not able to free themselves, and the other student involved was also not able to help them." Okay. This student left the bathroom to seek help from staff and reported the incident to administrators. Administrators responded and were able to assist, but staff called 911 for additional precautionary medical support. Due to privacy reasons, I am not able to share any additional details with you. All right. Now, obviously, there's more to this letter, as you can see, but it does not necessarily pertain to what we're talking about right now. So I linked it again. Here's the link if anybody want to go back, look at this letter for themselves, read the whole thing. It will do you some good. All right. But this is her letter. This is Carrie Burke's account of what happened. Okay. Let's move on. All right, guys, here's the details that I find suspicious about the story. Okay. So I originally came across this incident on Instagram. All right. Some of you probably seen that. And the video I saw was the newscaster news video, all right, that we just watched. And when I first saw that, I was suspicious about the injuries, all right, because that was the first thing they said. When I read the caption on Instagram, it said 2nd grader hung. And I'm immediately thinking, all right, when I hear about people getting hung, usually it's a race related thing. All right, it's an act of violence portrayed from one race, one group of people to another. All right. But specifically, the injuries to the student were described by his parents as severe bruising on his neck and face. Right off the bat, that was suspicious to me because I'm thinking, how could you have severe bruising on your neck and your face, but you were hung? All right. Typically, when you're hung, you would see bruising around your neck. All right. There can be other extenuating circumstances that would cause the bruising pattern to be different, but for the most part, I would think you would have bruising around your neck. All right. So that automatically set the alarm bells off in my head, right? Source link. The next detail that I found suspicious about this case, in the news interview that the mother does, she states that the school officials told her that her son was choking. All right. And she thought they meant that he was at lunch and choked on some food. Okay. That would be understandable. But already there's conflicting stories as to what took place on this day. All right. We got the story that the little kid was hung. Then we got the story that the mother thinks he was being bullied. Then we got the story that, oh, he was choking on food. We got a lot of different stories, a lot of different possible outcomes, okay, at this point. So I'm already thinking, okay, why are we jumping to the conclusion that this boy was hung, all right? Why is that pertinent? Okay, we don't have a lot of information, and I'll get into why that is as we go on in the presentation, all right? But the next detail that I find suspicious, okay? The principal told the mother that her son was horseplaying. Okay, what does she mean by horseplaying? Was he fighting in the bathroom? Was he, just playing around with this unknown fourth grader in the bathroom? How exactly were they playing? We need more information. Okay, so the mother was told by the principal that her son was horseplaying with a fourth grader in the bathroom and that his jacket accidentally got caught on a hook. Listen, I'm going to ask this question multiple times over the course of this presentation. I hope you don't get annoyed. But how do you get your jacket stuck on a bathroom stall door hook? How is that possible? Okay, the hooks are not that big. In my head, in my mind, when I hear that, I'm thinking, come on, that's a little beyond me. That's a little far-fetched. Okay, because anytime I hang my jacket up on the coat hook, not that much of it is on the hook that I wouldn't be able to unhook it, especially if it's on my body. Okay, it wouldn't take that much effort and that much brain power to unhook oneself from a coat hook, especially a second grader. I would like to think a second grader would have the capacity to unhook themselves or figure out how to get out of a situation like that. Okay, so that's what I found suspicious. Another thing. Next, okay, the student was unable to free themselves, and the fourth grader couldn't help either. Okay, so the fourth grader leaves the bathroom. All right, how hard is it to get yourself unstuck from a bathroom door stall? Okay, even a fourth grader couldn't figure it out. Okay, what's next? Are you smarter than a fifth grader? Is the fifth grader going to be able to figure it out too? What they talking about here? Okay, the mother also doubts the principal's story. Okay, the principal, remember, told her that before she got the son down, that he was foaming out of the mouth and unconscious, and that was occurring from horse playing. Principal Carrie Burke. Okay, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? How did him getting hung, how is that possible? And what are the circumstances that caused him to foam out of the mouth and be unconscious? Okay, I'm going to explain the differences between hanging and other forms of acts of violence. Okay, that could have been possible here. But lock in with me, okay? Last two things that I found suspicious was that the mother states that the second grader had marks under his eyes, like his blood vessels. That's word for word, bar for bar, what she just said in the video. And bruises around his neck from being choked. All right. To me, having marks under your eyes, okay, I imagine that coming from strangulation. Okay, when you're strangled, okay, it usually manual strangulation. You have blood vessel bursts from all the pressure. Okay, so bruising around the neck, okay, I can understand that. And then she said that it was from being choked. Like she said, it looked like it was from being choked. Okay, the term choking, okay, has a couple different meanings, but in this context, I would think that it means something or someone is applying manual pressure against the person in question's neck, okay, for it to look like they're being choked. All right, they didn't specifically or explicitly say that it looked like he was hung, okay, because that would have been different. Okay, the injuries would have been a little bit different. They said that it looked like he had been choked. So already that's like, wait a minute. Okay, maybe he wasn't hung. Maybe it was something else that happened to him. Okay, feel like that's a perfectly logical alternative to what the story that we were already given. Last but not least, okay, the mother says that her son told her that the fourth grader said to him, "I'm going to show you how I did people back in the day." Right off the bat, hold on, wait a minute, something ain't right. All right, what fourth grader uses that phrase? I never heard that in my life ever. Okay, maybe it is some fourth graders out there that be using that phrase, but the math ain't mathin' for me. All right, the math ain't mathin'. It didn't sound like that's something that would come out of a fourth grader's mouth, and I'll get into that further. Right now, let's go over the key players. Okay, who do we know? I'm sorry to tell you, folks, we don't really know anybody in this story. We know who they are, but not their actual identities. Okay, so we got an unnamed second grader. All right, that's the kid who allegedly got hung in the school on a door hub. Then we got the fourth grader. This is the person who was allegedly roughhousing or horseplaying in the bathroom with the second grader. The one person we do know is the face of the school. Obviously, she's gonna have a presence. She has to get it out in front of this. Carrie Burke. Yay, Carrie Burke. Okay. Then we have the unnamed, unidentified parents of the second grader. Those are the folks who gave the testimony during the video. And another question, key player that we don't know if they truly existed in this story, but I wanted to know personally what staff was contacted or asked for help. Okay, what administration? Who was the administrative staff in the school that was able to assist this incident? Okay, and then also the security, like maybe were there security guards? Okay, was anybody recording? Did anybody see this occurring? There wouldn't be cameras in the bathroom, but did anybody see them going into the bathroom? Okay, let's move on. Now, what are we missing? Okay, I was trying to come up with different things that I felt like we had. Okay, informational gaps. Okay, that's a better term to use. I was looking for gaps in information. What I knew versus what I didn't know. Okay, so first thing I didn't know, the identity of the second grader and his parents. Okay, obviously I'm probably not going to get that. I wasn't able to get that throughout my investigation because of privacy reasons, just like the principal said. Okay, so from here on out, okay, I had to use the sources that were available to me. I don't have all the connections to be able to get more specific details. So for right now, This is what we got. This is the best we got. All right, guys and girls. This is the best. This is the best we got. Okay. Now, we also need to know the identity of the fourth grader and his testimony. Okay. What was the fourth grader side to this story? We only getting the story from one source. All right. I can apply that to real life. Why it's not good to only have this one side of the story. All right. So we definitely would need the testimony of the fourth grader. What was his story? Okay. Then we need footage of the bathroom / the school interior. Okay. That will help us build a timeline. If we know what time they went in, we know what time they went out, we can see how long they were in the bathroom. That will also give us information as to whether or not the injuries that the little boy received would be plausible given how long they were in there, okay? And how long he could have possibly been hung for, okay? Now, we need to know the details of the bathroom. So in this specific bathroom where this incident took place, where is the bathroom located in the school? Okay, is it on the first floor, the second floor? How many floors of the school is it? Where is this bathroom? All right, then we need to know the height and the specifications of the stalls and the coat hooks. They are important because, again, that is another thing that was involved. Okay, without the knowledge of the height and the specifications of the stall hooks, we don't know if it's possible. We cannot say for certain that it is or is not possible that the little boy was hung. Okay, we can't be sure about that because we don't have enough information. Again, I'm going to keep stressing that as we move on. Okay, but we don't have that much information. Okay, so we need more. We got to look for it. I had to look for it. Okay, then which stall did this happen in? All right, was this the end stall, the accessible, the handicap stall? The middle, the first stall, where was it? Okay, we will be able to tell the orientation and further ascertain whether or not this alleged hanging was actually possible. All right. Now, on the topic of the boys, we need to know, again, when did the boys enter the bathroom? We need to know how long they were in the bathroom for. When did the fourth grader leave the bathroom to get help? All right, what time was this? They tell us it was in the afternoon. Okay, we know school usually end around 3 something. So it had to have been in between 12 and 3. Okay. How long did it take the staff and the administration to assist? Okay, because those are crucial minutes. If you want us to believe that this little boy was actually hung and not something else, every second counts, literally. It's life or death. So how long did the staff and administration take to assist him? What were the boys wearing that day? Okay. What's the dress code of the school? Okay, I wasn't able to get that information. But if they allow jackets, okay, the situation would be possible. But if it's like a lot of these schools out there, they don't allow you to wear your jacket while you're in class or while you're in school, might not necessarily be accurate that he got caught on the door hook with his jacket when he's not allowed to have it. All right, jacket not allowed to have it. All right. How long was this second grader hanging for? Okay, depending on how long he was hanging for, his injuries should match up with that. Okay. So on the topic of the injuries now, we need to define strangulation and hanging. Okay. The reason why I say this, I don't think the little boy was actually hung. I think he was strangled. Okay. So we need to define the two. We need to figure out their causes and the symptoms of them, or the signs. And the same thing for blunt force trauma. Okay. Blunt force trauma, they said that was one of the injuries that this little boy received as a result of this incident. And if you want us to believe that, we need to define it. We need to know the causes and the signs of it. Okay, so we can actually say whether or not he should have blunt force trauma injuries as a result of this alleged hanging. Okay. Can hanging actually cause blunt force trauma? What are the circumstances that would be possible? Okay, because I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm just saying it doesn't necessarily make sense to me. Okay, so make it make sense to me. Okay, how long do you have to be strangled for before you start foaming, frothing from the mouth, and lose consciousness? Okay, how long is that? What's the process of a hanging or a strangulation that would produce that type of symptom? Okay. Lastly, how far off the ground would a second grader have to be in this scenario to have blunt force trauma injuries? Okay, because in the bathroom there aren't many things that you could be hit with that will produce a blunt force trauma injury. Okay, just briefly, what a blunt force trauma injury is, that's when you get hit with a heavy object or extreme force is applied, or you're hit with it. Okay, and you will have specific injury patterns based off what type of heavy object you were hit with. So say if you take a baseball bat and you hit somebody upside the head with it, all right, they're gonna have a welt on the top or wherever you hit them. Okay, or they might have bruising, they might have internal bleeding, depending on what you did. But that is an example of a blunt force trauma injury. Okay, next slide, let's move on. Guys, this is the ADA. Okay, this is the Americans with Disabilities Act. Okay, this is a law. The ADA determines the standard specifications for all buildings in America. All right, to be able to operate, to be able to open and provide public services, public goods, you have to be ADA compliant. So when you go to the store, maybe you go to McDonald's and stuff, and you see the handicapped parking spaces right in front of the store, those are examples of things that a business needs to do to be ADA compliant. They have to be accessible to everyone, all right? And they cannot, as it says right here under purpose, they cannot discriminate you based on disability, and they need to ensure equal access to employment, goods and services, transportation, and state and local government programs. Okay. This applies to state and local governments, employers, and public accommodations. Okay, so a school would be a public accommodation, and they technically are under the state government, so you can see it's covered by the ADA, by this law. Okay, here's some examples other than the one I gave. Okay, you got required accessible parking, restrooms, so that's important in this case, and service animal access in public places. Okay, so sometimes it'll be like a little doggy door or something, or a space for the dogs to sit if you got a service dog or a service animal, whatever the case may be. All right. Now here are the bathroom specs for a standard bathroom that is ADA compliant. Okay, so like I said, all bathrooms, all public accommodations, all buildings need to be ADA compliant. Okay, there are different configurations of bathrooms and bathroom stalls specifically, but for the purpose of this investigation, I'm going to only use the standard because it gives us a baseline. Okay, it gives us a average, if you will, that we can say, hey, all right, I can roughly estimate that this would be possible, or this wouldn't be possible based off the average. All right, less likely or more likely, if you will. Now, for the standard door height, all right, for a bathroom stall, okay, notice the door right here, all the way to the left. That is 58 inches tall, okay? So if that door were to be on the floor, standing upright, from the door to the top, from the floor to the top of the door panel, that's 58 inches, okay? Don't worry, I do the conversions, so just bear with me, all right? Again, the door panel from the floor to the top of the door panel is 58 inches. The panel, all right, the actual wall of the stall, notice is all the way at the far right, okay? If it were to be sitting on the floor, again, that will also be 58 inches. Notice they're the same length. The wall is just longer than the door. Same height, different length. Same height, different length, okay? The pilasters are these longer panels that touch the ground, and they are connected to this railing that holds up the entire fixture, all right? The pilasters are 84 inches tall. So you see they're sitting on the floor. From the floor to the top of the pilaster, that's 84 inches, all right? And lastly, you got the shoe. The shoe is this little thing at the bottom here. Hopefully y'all can see that. It's right here. All right, the shoe is only 4 inches. 4 inches tall. From the bottom of the floor, from the floor to the top of the shoe is 4 inches. And also, to be ADA compliant, all bathroom stalls must have a 12-inch gap between the bottom of the panel / the door and the finished floor. All right, so that's where that little space is under the door, under the wall. And the reason why that is a standard is because for people who need wheelchairs or people who can't stand up, they need to be able to access the bathroom stall. And there's a wide range they need to be able to do, movements they need to be able to do to orientate themselves onto the toilet. All right, so that space is so that the feet of their wheelchair does not get stuck on the wall and they don't get stuck in the bathroom stall. All right, let's move on. In accordance with the ADA, okay, this is on the coat hooks. So this is also important. Coat hooks must be placed within the accessible reach standard range of 15 inches and 44 inches on the inside of the door, okay? So they can't be placed on the outside because that wouldn't be ADA compliant because it's not accessible. All right, if you're sitting on the toilet, whether you're a paraplegic or you can stand up straight, how are you going to get your stuff? Let's say you put your book bag on the hook and it's outside the door. How are you going to reach it? Let's say you're on the toilet and you got napkins in your book bag or something. You need it. How are you going to get it? And it's on the outside of the door. And people can steal from you if you got coat hooks on the outside of the bathroom door. That doesn't make sense, okay? So it has to be on the inside of the door. Now, specifically for buildings servicing children ages 5 through 12, like schools, the door hook would be a maximum of 44 inches off the ground, okay? The actual maximum is 48 inches, but that is for buildings that accommodate adults, okay? So again, for the ones that primarily accommodate children, the maximum reach range that the door hook can be placed at on the door is 44 inches from the ground. So from the ground to the actual door hook, that's 44 inches, all right? Hopefully y'all understand what I'm getting at, okay? Now, here's the table, okay, that shows you what size range is corresponds to which age, okay? So it says the following table provides guidance on reach ranges for children according to age, where building elements such as coat hooks, lockers, or operable parts are designed for use primarily by children, okay? Now, look at right here, 5 through 8, 9 through 12. The reason why I selected those ages, okay, and I'm going to go over this again, is because that is the age range of the two little boys, okay? They would be in between 8 and 12, all right? So, well, I'll say 7 because the little boy, the second grader, was 7. So they're in between 7 and 12. Okay. So if you can see this little purple highlighted portion at the bottom. All right. Again, reiterating. The code states that coat hooks must be located within one of the reach ranges of 48 inches maximum and 15 inches minimum above the finished floor. Accessible coat hooks are usually placed at 44 inches, measured to the center line of the unit. Okay, so that means if you're on the toilet, your exact middle, okay, the exact middle, that's where it will be placed. okay? It won't be placed off to the right on the door. It won't be placed off to the left on the door. It will be placed directly in the middle, okay? So it has to be aligned so that you can accurately reach it, get whatever you need off the hook, and keep it pushing, all right? While it's acceptable to place them lower, it will be difficult to reach them, and jackets or other clothing that are hung could drag against the floor. We all been to the nasty public bathroom, all right? If you haven't, I don't believe you, because everybody has. And you know, them floors be dirty, all right? Them floors be real nasty. Putting the door hook on the bottom of the door panel, okay, that would mean you put your hoodie on that. Your hoodie is now covered in piss. Piss, all right? It's covered in straight piss. I don't want that. So it wouldn't really make sense for the door hook to be on the bottom of the door panel, okay? 15 inches off the ground. That means from the ground up is like this. And you got to reach all the way down. That don't make sense. So it's at 44 inches, okay? Now, let's move on to the next slide. Averages, all right? Again, I don't know how much the two children weigh. I don't know how tall they are. Okay, so I have to go with what I got, which is the average. Okay, so I looked up the average height and weight of a second grader and a fourth grader. Okay, I'll explain why that's important. For right now, a healthy height range for second grade boys is approximately 44 to 50 inches. Okay, don't worry, I do the conversions. A typical weight range, for second graders is 46 to 78 pounds. All right, so 44 to 50 inches, 46 to 78 pounds. They don't weigh that much to us. Okay, for a younger person, that is a lot maybe to handle. Okay. Then for the fourth grade boy, average height ranging from 47 to 54 inches, and the average weight between 46 to 78 pounds. So they're roughly the same. The average second grade and fourth grade boy are roughly around the same height and the same weight. Okay, obviously there are outliers. Obviously not everybody falls within that range. There could be people that are taller than the average, shorter than the average, way more than the average, way less than the average. Okay, that is all possible. We just need to use the averages to set up a baseline. Okay, guys, let me stress this. I can't stress this enough. An average second grader would be roughly the same height as the door hook. Okay, why is that important? Dear director, why is that important? Because if he's the same height as where the door hook would be, how could he have been hung? To be hung, you need to be hanging. All right? You can't hang if you're standing up and the thing that's allegedly hanging you is right next to your head. That the only way that'll work is if this, right? You somehow hook yourself to the door hook and then you lift your legs up. All right, that's outlandish, guys. You saw me doing it. That's outlandish, okay? That's outlandish. So, casting more doubt for me while I was doing this information, that casted more doubt for me as to whether or not this boy was hung, okay? Because when you say the boy is hung, that's very serious. All right, and if you want me to believe that this sweet young boy was hung, come on, you gotta tell me the accurate information, okay? This isn't making sense. Make it make sense for me. Again, let's move on. Quick maths, round one, okay? 44 inches is equal to 3.67 feet. That will be the minimum average second grade boy height, okay? 50 inches is equal to 4.167 feet. That is the maximum for a second grade boy, all right? Guys, a 44-inch second grade boy, that's the minimum height. That's roughly over 3 feet, over 3.5 feet, All right, just under 4. 50 inches would be a little over 4 feet. Okay. Now, again, remember the door height, the door panel height is 58 inches, which is 4.83 feet. So the maximum second grade boy height, not that far off from the door panel. Okay, not that far off. Standard hook height is between 44 to 48 inches. All right, remember we said we're using 44 because that's the maximum for buildings that service children. So 44 inches. Notice 3.67 feet, 3.67 feet. That's the same height on average. Okay. And then if the maximum were to be the case, they'll be taller than the hook. Okay, so I did the math. The hook height minus the second grade boy height, the minimum second grade boy height, I did the equation twice, is equals the space from the shortest average boy to the hook, approximately. Okay. So I did 4 feet minus 3.67 feet, and I got 0.33 feet, 6'7". That's 3.96 inches. Okay, so almost 4 inches difference. So to put it in layman's terms, from the top of the minimum average second grade boy to the hook will be almost 4 inches. So not that much. All right, not that much. They wouldn't be that much shorter than the hook. Okay, definitely not enough for them to be hung. Then I repeated the equation for the maximum second grade boy height. Okay. So again, hook height minus maximum second grade boy height equals the space from the tallest average boy to the hook, approximately. So 4 feet minus 4.17. I rounded up. Okay, don't worry, don't fret. I rounded up. So it was 4.167. I just rounded up to 4.17. Okay, so if you do that, 4 feet minus 4.17 feet, that's negative 0.17 feet. Okay, can't have a negative height, so I converted it in positive. So 0.17 feet is equal to 2 inches, roughly 2 inches. So that means that the maximum average second grader would be 2 inches taller than the hook. So the top of their head will be 2 inches above where the hook is. Okay, I hope y'all are keeping up. Okay. I built a rough timeline, okay, of what happened. So again, the main thing that we know is that this happened in the afternoon. All right, we have no timestamps or no footage. Okay, the kids were horse playing. Okay, does that mean they were fighting? How were they playing? Then the second grader's jacket gets caught on the stall door hook. Okay, this had to have been happening within the same 10 minutes. All right, it don't take that long to be horse playing around the bathroom, and somebody gets their jacket caught on the hook, and then why would that take longer than 10 minutes? Okay, I'm guessing here, but doesn't sound like that's a type of thing that would take too long to occur to me, in my opinion. Okay. The second grader is quote unquote unable to free himself. Okay. How hard could it be? Again, how hard could it be to unhook yourself from a hook? Okay. Unless you're just shorter. Okay. It could be possible that the second grader is shorter than the average. Okay. But I don't know. Now, the fourth grader couldn't assist at all. Surely he could have figured out how to take that jacket off and help the second grader. Did the second grader even have one on? Good questions. All good questions. The fourth grader leaves the bathroom to get help. Okay. How long since entering the bathroom was this? You get the gist, okay? I'm just reiterating the same timeline that we were given by the news article, by the news video, okay, about the story. Now let's get into the injuries, guys, okay? Per the mother, The little boy has marks under his eyes like his blood vessels and bruises around his neck from being choked. Okay? Want y'all to keep that in mind. Again, remember, I highlighted it in yellow because it's important to my argument, to my claim. Now, from the principal from the school district, okay, again, they say he got caught on the door hook. He wasn't able to free himself. The other student left the bathroom and got help. Let's define strangulation, okay? It's similar to hanging, but it's a little bit different. Strangulation is asphyxia through closure of the airways, and is also occlusion of the blood vessels that supply the brain that are inside your neck as a consequence of external pressure. Okay? Asphyxia just means that you're being choked. Your airways are being blocked. No air can get into your lungs. Therefore, it can't get into your blood, can't get into your brain. Okay? So your body is being oxygen deprived. Okay? Then occlusion of the blood vessels. That just a synonym of that would be compression or constriction of your blood vessels. Your blood vessels are being squeezed, okay? That causes a lot of different things, okay? Here's what it says it causes. The evidence of strangulation includes the following: finger marks around the neck. That's manual strangulation, okay? You will see finger marks around somebody's neck. Bruising, coughing, stridor. Stridor is basically a raspy voice. Notice it says change in voice under as well, but they're both kind of the same thing. Okay, it just means that because your windpipe is closed, your vocal cords aren't making the same sound. You sound raspier. Okay, your voice don't sound the same because you were choked or strangled specifically. You will have facial/subconjunctival petechiae. That's basically where your eyes, the blood vessels around and in your eyes rupture because of the increased pressure and blood flow to your face and to your eyes specifically. Okay? You also have facial plethora. Again, that is swelling of the face due to the increase in blood flow to your head due to you being strangled. And you also have laryngeal tenderness. Okay, your larynx, that's also one of the things in your neck. It will be tender. Okay, notice if you touch your neck is soft, right? Your neck is soft. If you were to be strangled and choked, especially if it was extreme pressure applied, assuming you survived that, your neck would be very tender. Okay, you wouldn't be able to just press in and feel all the muscle and stuff like that. It would be a little more difficult. Okay. Trigger warning, guys. Okay. My girlfriend told me I should add this in. Okay. I don't care about triggering people, but I understand that there may be some sensitive audiences. So if you cannot handle this type of information, I'm not really sure what to tell you to do. Maybe you can click off. I'm only going to be playing about 5 minutes of this video. So, I mean, you could take a break for 5 minutes if you want, or you could just stay and watch the videos. Personally, it's not that hard. But let's get into this strangulation visualizer, okay? This is about to give you a visual, a better understanding than I can provide about how strangulation works, okay? Hope you enjoy.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's class. In this class, we are starting topic strangulation. It is really very important and it comes under asphyxia. It is the other type of asphyxia. So we will understand what is strangulation and what are the different types of strangulation and all the other important things related to strangulation. So first of all, we understand what is strangulation. So strangulation is construction of neck with the help of multiple things. It is just the constriction of neck without suspending the body. In hanging, there is a suspension of body, either complete or partial, but in strangulation, there is no suspension of body. It is just Holding a U-shaped ligature against the front and side of the neck while standing at the back causes death. So most of the time what happens, strangulation is from behind. For example, I have my, let's say this is my charger, like charging cable. So if I use this charging cable to trap someone like this and I am behind that person, okay, so I will trap that person like this and then I will apply the pressure, and with the help of this pressure, with the help of this, let's say this is the type of ligature, let's say the U shape, you can say C shape or U shape ligature mark is present in the victim's neck, and this could come under strangulation. Okay, so if I am using this charger cable, it is a type of ligature. If I use my hands like this, so most of the time it is like if someone manually strangulates someone, the whole finger thing comes behind the neck like this, and the thumbs present call it throttling. Manual strangulation if someone in manual strangulation, if someone presses someone's neck and apply the pressure without suspending the body, it comes under manual strangulation and we call it throttling. Then we have garroting. Garroting. So it is kind nature. I can use a rope, I can use dupattas, I can use sari, I can use anything as a ligature. Then we have manual strangulation, or we call it throttling. Manual strangulation if someone in manual strangulation, if someone presses someone's neck and apply the pressure without suspending the body, it comes under manual strangulation and we call it throttling. Then we have garroting. Garroting. So it is kind of using some sharp metal wires to construct the neck. Okay, so this is garroting. Then we have mugging. Mugging is similar to throttling or manual strangulation. So manual strangulation in kind of public places with multiple people comes under mugging. Then we have barnstola, in which we use barnses. So it is kind of two sticks type of structure, and in between two sticks, if we are pressing someone's neck, then it comes under barnstola. Okay, so these are different types of strangulation. Most of the time it is, so the most common type of strangulation is ligature strangulation and throttling. We call it manual strangulation. These type of strangulation are common. So this is manual strangulation. Okay, this is manual strangulation or throttling, we can say. Now, what are the important symptoms? So sudden and violent compression of the windpipe causes almost immediate insensibility and death. If someone is really normal and someone attacks them and presses his or her neck, so it is kind of very sudden compression in the neck and the windpipe gets blocked, which immediately causes the insensibility or unconsciousness, and it leads to death. So these are the symptoms. It is really very sudden. So if the windpipe is partially closed, so this is first situation in which we think that the windpipe through which we breathe, my windpipe, or if someone's windpipe is partially closed, the buzzing of ear is the symptom, congestion and cyanosis in the head is the symptom, vertigo is the symptom, tingling is the symptom, muscle weakness is again a symptom, bleeding from mouth, nose and ears is really very important symptom, clenching of hands. So most of the time, if the person is dead, so most of the time we see people hands are like clenched like this, and because of stiffening of the body it stays like this, like because of the pressure and because of the pain, that person clenches his hands, and most of the time feet are clenched as well. So clenching of hands and feet are like the symptoms. And then convulsions occur before death. So convulsions are again a kind of symptoms in case of strangulation. Okay, in case of any type of strangulation, either it's manual or with the help of ligature or Barnstola or throttling or anything, any type of strangulation leads to these type of symptoms. And most of the time strangulation is really very sudden, and the victim is not prepared for that like struggle and all. Okay, causes of death. So death can be due to multiple causes. So most important cause of death is asphyxia. Okay, this could be the cause of death. It is due to elevation of larynx and tongue. So if someone is pressing the neck, the larynx will elevate and the tongue will elevate. It closes further the airway of the person. Okay, at the pharyngeal level, and it is difficult to occlude the airway at laryngeal and tracheal level due to the rigidity of the strong cartilages, except the extreme pressure is applied. So if someone is applying extreme pressure, so because of pressure the tongue comes up and the larynx comes up, and all the like pressure includes all the like laryngeal and tracheal level, it just elevates and it further blocks the, like you can say, the airway, and the person is not able to breathe, and the person is not able to process that whole scenario. So because of that, because of lack of oxygen, asphyxia happens. Then we have cerebral anoxia or venous congestion. So because of pressure, venous congestion happens and it leads to death. Then it could be like combined asphyxia and venous congestion. So we can combine these two symptoms, these two causes, we can say. If we are combining asphyxia and cerebral anoxia or venous congestion, then it leads to death. This is the third type of symptom, or this is the third cause of death in case of asphyxia, combined asphyxia and vagal congestion. Then we have vagal inhibition. So because of vagal inhibition, it leads to death. So cause of death could be vagal inhibition. We'll understand what is vagal inhibition, and it is really very rarely seen in fracture or dislocation of our cervical vertebrae. So it is really very rare because the pressure is not enough to fracture or dislocate the cervical vertebrae, but sometimes it happens. Okay, now what is...
Alright, so I'm gonna move on from this because, like I said, this is just extra information. You already got enough of what we need. But notice how she said that the cause of death, number 5, where it says fractured dislocation of the cervical vertebrae. Notice how she said that was rare. Okay, we're gonna get into hanging. Okay, you're gonna see. I hope it becomes apparent the difference between the two forms of strangulation. Okay, so let's move on. Now, how does hanging work specifically? Hanging is the suspension, either complete or incomplete, of a person's body with compression on the neck due to the body's own weight. Okay, so the compression is specifically on the neck bones. Okay, whereas in strangulation it will be on the arteries and the windpipe. Okay, so usually you're being strangled from the front. There are different types of hangings. Okay, but hanging is when you die. Okay, from being suspended with compression around your neck. Okay, to the point where your neck breaks. Alright, what many people consider to be hanging is not actually hanging. Alright, because death occurs by fracture, dislocation rather than asphyxia. So strangling is caused primarily by asphyxia. Hanging is caused primarily by neck fracture. Okay. Now the evidence of hanging includes the following: ligature marks. So whatever the person used or whatever was used to commit hanging, a belt, rope, or cord. Okay. It could be other things, but those are the most typical. Similar to strangulation, you will have facial or subconjunctival petechiae. I'll explain what that is. That's the burst blood vessels in your eye. Okay. You have retinal or scleral hemorrhage, which is specifically the eye blood vessels, especially in your sclera and your retina. are bursting. So you will see like somebody who has scleral or retinal hemorrhage, you will see like a whole bunch of blood, like a pool of blood in the eye. That's why the eye, the white part will look red, because the blood vessels burst in there. Okay, and stridor. You already said what stridor is. That's the raspy voice. Alright. Here is a visualization of hanging. Okay. Again, trigger warning. If you can't handle this, either click off for a little bit, or just suck it up. All right, come on, you got this. I believe in you. You can handle this. All right, I believe in you. I believe in all of you. All right, let's get into this.
While the remaining 31 were not so lucky. If you're looking, it's generally assumed that when
Keep filling it up, guys. This is new to me. I never streamed before. All right, give me some grace.
one is hung, they died by having their neck broken. The official terminology for such a death is called the hangman's fracture. At the end of the drop, the second cervical vertebrae, or C2, is fractured by the weight of the body and the tightening of the knot. This fracture separates the C2 vertebrae from the C3 vertebrae, causing the spinal cord to snap in the process, resulting in instant death. Death by the hangman's fracture is a quick and humane way to die from hanging, and in a perfect world it would work every time. Unfortunately, death by the hangman's fracture was fairly uncommon in most hangings. In a study published in Forensic Science International, autopsies were performed on 34 individuals who were executed by hanging. Of the 34, only 3 died from the hangman's fracture, while the remaining 31 were not so lucky. If you're looking for a humane way to die, hanging is not one of them. There's multiple variables that determine a quick, clean death, and most of them are not in your favor. It's the early 19th century. At such and such time and place, you allegedly committed a murder. You claimed you were innocent, however your lawyer did a shoddy job and you were found guilty. Your sentence? Death by the gallows. It's the day of your execution. The crowd is boisterous for your death, the noose is placed around your neck, a bag over your head, the executioner pulls the lever, and pause. Here's what will determine whether you die quick and painlessly or slow and excruciating. The drop height, length of rope, and placement of the knot. First, the drop height. The height determined to drop the condemned was a tricky one. If the height was too high, you'd risk decapitating the individual, which didn't do well for PR. And if it was too short, the hanging would take too long, which was also bad for PR. Ideally, when dropped from the appropriate height, the weight of the body broke the neck. But what would happen if the height wasn't high enough? The force from the drop wouldn't be strong enough to snap the vertebrae. However, it would be enough to crush, rupture, and tear arteries in your neck, specifically your carotid arteries, which supply blood to the brain. Tearing of blood vessels results in internal bleeding in the neck, and because the noose obstructs blood to drain downward, the face and neck would become engorged with fluid, so much that the eyes would bulge and tongue stick out of the mouth. This is why the heads were often covered to hide the grotesque process. Though the individual would likely lose consciousness within seconds from blood loss, they're alive to feel the acute force and rupture of blood vessels from the drop, which would be extremely painful. Next, the rope length. The drop height may be sufficient to cause the hangman's fracture, but if the rope length is too long or too short, the height won't matter. Too long means you'll make contact with the ground, breaking your ankles, getting untied, refit, and dropped again. If it's too short, it will lessen the force placed on the vertebrae when dropped and may not rupture blood vessels, meaning you'll die through strangulation by compression of the airway. Strangulation causes the face to turn blue from lack of oxygen and produces petechiae, or small blood marks on the face and eyes caused by bursting capillaries. Death by strangulation typically occurred after 4 to 5 minutes. However, death wasn't official until the heart stopped beating, which would continue minutes after death. So it was common to keep the person hanged for up to an hour afterward. Finally, the most important variable to hanging, the placement of the noose. If the noose is placed in the right position, even with a moderate height, you can guarantee an instant death. Traditionally, nooses were placed in two positions, with the knot either under the ear called the subardial knot or behind the head called the occipital knot. Both of these positions were inconsistent in causing instant death, and often caused the individual to die by strangulation or sometimes decapitation. Surprisingly, the best position to place the knot was under the chin, known as the submental knot. This placement is the most effective because at the end of the drop, the knot forces the individual's head to hyperextend backward, placing a strong compressive force from the hyperextension and weight of the body on the vertebrae, causing it to break. The same fatal injury happens when a driver's chin hits the steering wheel in a high-speed collision. The impact compresses the vertebrae, thereby fracturing it and snapping the spinal cord. In 1913, British anthropologist Frederick Wood Jones published work on his findings that indicated fatal cervical fractures occur best with the long drop and placement of the submental knot, which later became standard practice in Britain. So yeah, there's the science of the gallows. Not the most humane way to die after all. Also, since it's late October and...
Alright. So I hope after watching that video you kind of got a better grasp of how hanging works. All the people that might have been triggered by that, sorry. Okay, but we gotta learn. And we gotta know more. Okay? Let's move on. Now let's compare and contrast strangulation versus hanging. Okay. So we have the definitions. Again, strangulation occurs primarily due to asphyxia, okay, or the closure of the airways, and also the occlusion of the blood vessels that supply the brain in the neck. Okay. So again, best example that was given was manual strangulation. Okay, when you're strangled manually means it's with your hands. Okay, manus in Latin means hand or labor. Okay, so you're being choked by hand. Okay. The three most important symptoms or signs of that would be bruising, facial subconjunctival petechiae. So like you just said, the burst blood vessel marks. Okay, that's similar to what the mother said happened to the little boy. Okay, then you have laryngeal tenderness. Okay, and to reiterate, for hanging, it's suspension of the body with weight and compression on the neck. Okay, death occurs by fracture rather than asphyxia. Okay, so they have similar symptoms, but they occur in different ways. Slightly different ways. Okay. Now about the fourth grader. Remember the averages of the fourth grader. Now I'm going to explain how. So remember the average height, 47 to 54 inches, and the average weight is 46 to 78 inches. Okay. Now I was at this point in my investigation, I was trying to figure out what types of feats of strength would an 11-year-old be able to accomplish. Okay. How strong is the average 11th grader? And I will just tell you guys, I wasn't able to find a specific answer, of course, due to the fact that everybody's born differently, everybody has different genetics, so that means everybody has a different propensity for strength. Okay? Some people aren't strong, some people are strong. Okay? And when I say strong, I mean physically. Okay? Some people are physically stronger than others. Okay? Now, I was able to gather testimony from an actual powerlifting coach. Okay, and this guy, his name is Helgi Bryan, or Helgi Bryan, I don't know how you say it. Okay. I looked him up. This is all true, but he's been a powerlifter for 22 years. He's been competing in powerlifting for 20, and he's been coaching in powerlifting for 13 years. Okay. So he, at the time of this comment was made 7 years ago from the day that I looked up this question, but he says that he's training an 11-year-old at the current time. He's been training with this 11-year-old for about a month, and they've done around 10 sessions. Okay, and he says that this little boy weighs 35 kilograms. Again, I'm going to do the conversions. Okay, don't worry, just listen up. So he says that the little boy is still within his capabilities, so he's not struggling to lift the weights yet. All right, and he gives us the workout plan for the 11-year-old in the previous session. Okay, so after a month of strength training, this young boy, this 11th grader, not 11th grader, this 11-year-old, okay, that's roughly the 4th grade. So this would be a 4th grader. This 4th grade, 11-year-old 4th grader was able to squat 22.5 kilograms. Okay, 5 times 3 sets, so 15 times he lifted that, plus the one I said, okay? Then he bench pressed 17.5 kilograms, 15 times, alright? He deadlifted 35 kilograms, so he deadlifted his body weight 5 times, with 2 warm-up sets, at 30 and 20 kilograms, okay? He pressed 12.5 kilograms 5 times, and he did 16 reps of chin-ups. Okay, 2 sets, 8 reps. He did 16 chin-ups. So, guys, mind you, this is after 1 month of strength training, okay? Only 1 month. Here's the conversions. Okay, so after 1 month, again, of strength training, this 11-year-old lifted almost 50 pounds, okay, 49.6 pounds is when he was able to squat after a month. He was able to bench press 38.5 pounds, so almost 40. Okay. He was able to deadlift 77.16 pounds. He was able to press 27.5 pounds. And again, with the chin-ups, his body weight is 35 kilograms, so he most likely lifted himself, which is 77.16 pounds. Okay. Now, guys, I'm arguing that yes, while it is very possible that an 11-year-old will be able to lift the weight of a 2nd grader. Remember, the range is 45 to 75 pounds. Okay. So all of these weights that this 11th grader, after a month, was able to lift, that is roughly the same as the average 2nd grader, the weight of the average 2nd grader, okay? This is after 1 month. So most kids probably wouldn't be strong enough to do this with no strength training, okay? Most kids, K through 5th grade, aren't doing strength training, okay? They don't have the muscle mass, they don't have the body mass, okay? They're too small. It's not that they're incapable completely, it's just they don't have the muscle mass yet. They can grow by doing little training, okay? Remember, this guy, we go back, it says that he also has to do push-ups, sit-ups, and power snatch, but more casually, so that's not a specific part of the routine. All right, but without that foundational work, that foundational process, most kids aren't going to be able to lift that so easily, okay? So I'm applying that to the situation. It may or may not be possible for this 4th grader to have been able to successfully lift up the 2nd grader and hang him, all right? So let's move on. Let's move on. How? I'm a little. How? One more time. How? Okay. To be hung, remember what the video said. You must be suspended or fall from a height greater than your own. Okay. That is a specific function, specific requirement for you to have been hung. Okay. You have to fall or be suspended. Okay. Hanging requires a ligature that applies pressure to the neck. Okay. When you're hung, that pressure is going straight on your neck bone. Now, like the video said, it can also apply pressure to the arteries, especially if you do not, if you survive the hanging. Okay, you're still being restricted, but the typical hanging is a death that's caused by a neck break. Okay, jackets aren't strong enough to cause blunt force trauma injuries to the neck or the face. Okay, we all have hoodies. We all have jackets. Somebody probably hit you with a hoodie sleeve. It doesn't hurt. Okay. Even if somebody were to wrap your jacket around you and pull it, you wouldn't have that severe of bruising from a jacket. Okay, being wrapped around your neck. And then on top of that, just the scenario of how they want us to think that this jacket somehow allegedly hung this little boy. How is that possible? How? The second grader would hypothetically be a similar height to the hook, okay? If we just acknowledge that you have to fall or you have to be suspended, okay, from a height greater than your own. If you're the same height as the door stall hook, where is there for you to fall? Where is there for you to be suspended from? Okay, again, remember the averages. 44 to 58 inches tall. Okay, that's roughly 3 to 4 feet. The coat hooks are always 44 inches. So always the minimum of the average. That doesn't change. The height of the person would change. The height of the hook never changes. So even if this kid was 3 feet tall, all right, it still wouldn't be that hard for him to get to maneuver out of that situation. Okay, I would like to think so. Me personally. All right. How could your jacket getting caught equal bruising and marks under your eyes? All right, your jacket gets caught on a hook. Okay, if they want us to believe that your jacket got caught, okay, you like this. How you get bruising around your eyes from that? Okay. How could that equal foaming at the mouth and unconsciousness? You have to have been choked with extreme pressure for a pretty significant amount of time for you to start foaming at the mouth, okay, and lose consciousness. Now, I believe someone had to have applied a significant amount of pressure on this boy's throat. Okay. Hypothetically, a 4th grader would be able to lift the weight of a 2nd grader. But that still, for me, that still doesn't answer how the kid has such injuries, given the circumstance that should have been present to cause them, or not. Okay. He couldn't have fallen anywhere. He couldn't have swung on anything and hit himself. Okay, that would cause blunt force trauma injuries. He wasn't able to hit anything because the stall doors, the hooks on them are on the inside of the door. So for all this to have possibly happened, okay, that's why I asked what's the orientation of the stall, because if the hook's on the inside and they're in the inside of the stall, there's not much space for him to be hung in. And if it's on the outside of the door, that would make a little bit more sense. But again, that still just doesn't explain enough. It doesn't explain enough as to why we should believe that this was a hanging and not a strangulation. Okay? And last but not least, the number one how question that I had. What 4th grader uses the term back in my day? What 4th grader says that? That's a very specific phrase. Okay, for a 4th grader to be using, it just doesn't sound right. Okay, that don't sound like that came out of a 4th grader's mouth. To me, it didn't. Alright? Remember what the mom says to her, that her son told her. Okay? The son said the 4th grader told him, I'm going to show you how I did people back in the day. Guys, you want to know what I think of when I hear back in my day, back in my day, back in the day. You want to know what I hear? What I think of? This is what the fuck I think of. Alright? This is what I think of when I hear back in the day or back in my day. Notice the old man babies. Alright? They're old, but they're young at the same time. Alright? If they really want us to believe this little boy said this, okay, what day is he talking about? Guys, how far back in the day was Cuz talking about? How far? Okay, he should only be, what, 9 to 11 years old? How far back in the day are we talking about, okay? 4th graders are about 8 to 10 years old. 2nd graders are 7 to 8. Our second grader in question is 7. Confirmed. Okay? Excuse me. Got something in my eye. 7 to 8, 8 to 10. Okay? We don't know how old they are, except for the second grader. 7. Okay? He's 7. But we don't know how old the 4th grader is. Hypothetically, there will only be a 2 to 3 year age gap maximum. So you're not even that much older than the second grader for you to be using that terminology, my boy. You're not even older than young boy. Okay. Going back any time before the past 3 years will make this 4th grader not strong enough to lift the second grader because he wouldn't have the same muscle mass because he's younger. Okay. He a young boy already for him to be using that term. He will be an even younger boy. Alright, he will be an even younger boy if we was to go back 3-4 years. Okay, he will be the same age as a second grader. We know, alright, again, most second graders aren't doing strength training like that. So would he be able to do the same thing if he went back and showed us how he used to do people? No. Okay. So if the school story is correct, guys, that 4th grader needs to be studied. Okay, what's going on in his life that he knows how to hang or strangle someone? Why would that even be a way that you play with people? Okay, why is that his first order of business is to just hang somebody? Okay, I'm not saying that this is not true completely, definitively, because I don't know at the end of the day, but for me, it doesn't sound plausible. Okay, it doesn't sound plausible. Alright. If this 4th grader really did do that to another kid, he needs help. Seriously. At this point in my investigation, I did not think that it was the 4th grader. Okay? I don't think it's the 4th grader. And that brings me to the next slide. Okay? This is my theory. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm not an expert, motherfucker. I'm no expert. Yet. Okay, I'm still learning. I'm still getting my knowledge imparted on me. Okay, I'm not an expert, and footage and more information will either prove me right or wrong. Okay, it's not bad to be wrong. Sometimes we're gonna be wrong in life. Okay, it's about how you deal with being wrong. Okay, if you're wrong and you know you're wrong, and then you keep saying the wrong thing, no, we don't do that. Okay, that's how you spread misinformation. Okay. I'm pretty sure you've all heard that sentence before, that phrasing before, okay? But it's in a different context now. Okay, we're gonna tell you the truth about misinformation, not lie to you about it, okay? Like they did. Don't ask me who's that. Don't get me started. But okay, let's move on. The second grader was in the bathroom for some reason. Okay, that's my first point. The reason why I say that is because it happened in the afternoon, okay? It had to have been when he was in class, or else they wouldn't have told us that it happened in the bathroom. Alright, it's pretty simple logic, okay? Number 2, someone else bigger and stronger was in the bathroom with him. Someone else bigger and stronger than him, okay? This had to have been somebody that had the capabilities of lifting a little boy that high, okay? High enough to be hung on a bathroom door, according to their story, okay? Because it still doesn't make sense. The reason I say that is because, again, the circumstances don't add up unless there was somebody else older and stronger. Number 3, something happened to the boy that caused him to receive blunt force trauma injuries, neck contusions, and marks on his neck and under his eyes. Okay. The reason I say that, any older person would be strong enough to do this, and it would be more likely that they would say something along the lines of back in my day. Okay. Number 4, the 4th grader walks in during or at the end of the incident. Okay. We don't know when the 4th grader got into the bathroom. We don't know if they got into the same. We don't know if they went to the bathroom at the same time. Okay. That would kind of indicate that they're friends, and that will give validity to the roughhousing, the playful roughhousing angle of the story. Okay. If they got to the bathroom at different times, that would speak to more of why the mother feared that her son was being bullied. Okay. Maybe the little boy was in there first, and the bully came in and saw him. If it really was a bully, okay. The reason I say that because I personally just don't want to think a fourth grader could be that cruel. All right, to me, children can be innocent. Okay, I know that there are bad fourth graders, there are bad kids out there. I wasn't the best kid myself. All right, when I was growing up, so I acknowledge that it's possible. I'm just holding out a little bit of hope. You can't blame me, guys. You can't blame me. I'm just holding out a little bit of hope that a fourth grader wouldn't do something that crazy. All right. And last but not least, the fourth grader goes to get help. All right. If you just got done roughhousing in the bathroom, okay, and we're gonna take this to mean, all right, if you were fighting, okay, because some people say roughhouse and they really mean that it was a fight happening in the bathroom. If they was really fighting, I'm sure we've all been in a fight before. Some of us, okay. If you really have been in a fight, you know that you're not gonna be eager to help the person you was just fighting. Okay, you're gonna still be mad at them. You're not just gonna want to help them like that. Okay. Whether you want to say that's bad or good, that's up to your own personal interpretation. But most people, to me, wouldn't be so eager to help you out. All right, after I just got done whooping your ass, no, I'm not gonna help you. Stay on the ground. Gravel in this ass whooping I just provided you. Okay, you're not gonna be that eager to help. All right, and then even if he did, why wouldn't he just stay and just help the kid get unstuck from the hood? All right, it doesn't make sense to me that he just saw the kid was stuck on the hook and you, well, forget it. I'ma just go get help because F you. Like, dang, you're not even gonna try. You're not even gonna try. And then on top of that, you just got done committing a pretty serious act of violence against another kid, a kid who's younger than you. All right. Then you go and get help. Don't you know you're gonna be in trouble? Okay. Some kids be lying. They know they're gonna get in trouble. They don't want to get in trouble, so they obfuscate the truth. Okay. Why was he so forthcoming? If he just hung somebody, okay, that's very serious. If he just hung somebody, why would he be so up front about what he just did? That's very serious. You can get expelled, brother. Where's the timestamp? Where's the footage? That would give us way much more information. Okay. Now, here's my conclusion. Okay, we wrapping it up. Again, we don't know much. Okay, this story took place last year. All right, and the only really good piece of information I was able to find were from news articles, the news videos, and a couple other sources. Okay, it wasn't that much information. I wasn't able to find a police report. I wasn't able to find anything more in depth that would give us details that we already don't have. Okay, that's what happens when you investigate. Sometimes you are not going to have access to everything. Okay, that's where building connections. That's where, meeting people and talking to people will come in handy for you. It'll benefit you really well if you want to get into this. Okay, I'm getting into it myself. I really enjoy doing this investigation, so this is something I'll be continuing to do. All right. Also, we should not jump to conclusions about race in general. Specifically with this story, but in general, you should not jump to the conclusion about the race of anybody if you don't know, okay? Especially if their identities are being hidden. Don't jump to conclusions because you don't know, okay? We don't know the race of the fourth grader, okay? We can safely guess that the second grader is black, okay? We don't even know if that's really his picture, but we're going to assume that it is since it did make the news, okay? Not that everything that makes the news is true, because not everything is true that's on the news. But judging by the fact that not many major news companies, news organizations that I saw pick this story up, I would say that it is true. Okay, parts of it is true. Now, even though I say all this stuff, just like you all, I don't know. I don't go to the school. I never went to the school. I don't know anybody that went to the school. I don't know anybody that's currently works or attends that school, okay? So I'm going off the information that I was able to gather from my investigation, okay? That's what you had to do sometimes. There are people, again, this has to do with connections, that know more than you. And you need to go to them. If you really want to find out the truth, you need to ask more questions. You need to do more investigations, okay? Now, we need that footage. All right, we need more information. We need that footage. The footage will really help us determine all of the factors and all of the questions that I have put forth in this presentation so far. Okay? Last two things. The parents and the children identities are still not public. All right, now, through my investigation, I was able to find out what the mother looks like. I can confirm that she's black. All right, so we know she's black. We know the son is black. All right, also, the demographics of the school, I didn't include that in the slideshow, but it is predominantly a black school. Okay. Now remember, these are children, okay? In the comments, when I saw the original post, I saw a lot of people assuming that the fourth grader was a white person, and I'm gonna tell you why. It's because they purposefully used the phrasing that the boy was hung. Okay. We don't know if the boy was hung. All right. I just provided an alternative to that narrative. Okay. He could have been just strangled. And if you follow my argument, okay, maybe to you it also would make sense that he was hung on a a bathroom stall door hook when those door saw hooks aren't even strong enough to hold a lot of weight. All right, they're not that strong. The material's not that strong, but doesn't really make sense of a story. Okay, so I saw a lot of people jumping to conclusions about the race of the boys. Okay, you can't do that. And then I also saw people, turning up in the comments about, oh, if this was my kid's school, if this happened to my kid, the kid, that little boy would have been turned into the police. He would have got all type of charges. He would have blah, 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 blah. Guys, these are children, okay? You can't charge minors. And this is, I don't believe that this is really conducive of the fourth grader. I think there are things that's going on in his life, okay, that are causing him to act out in this way. That's usually how it goes. Kids don't just do stuff like this just out of the blue like that, okay? Not unless there's something wrong with them. Usually they learn behaviors like this, okay, from outside sources. Alright, guys. I was wrong. Alright? I can admit it. I was wrong. Okay? I was not wrong about my theory as to what happened to the boy. But I was wrong that this did happen to this little boy. Okay? I was thinking that this scenario was different and that somebody older, like a janitor or a part of the staff, okay, was abusing this child. That's what I ascertained. And the number one thing that made me think that was the detail, okay, that said the back in my day comment, okay? That's what made me think that it was somebody older than a fourth grader that did this, okay? And then the alignment of the facts that just brought me to that conclusion. But I was wrong, okay? That's how investigation works. That's how, hypothesizing works, okay? In the scientific method, one of the core steps is hypothesizing. Okay, you come up with a theory, okay, and then you test the theory. If your information is correct, then the results will align with your theory, and you'll know you're correct. If the results don't align with your theory, then you have to re-theorize. All right, that's how investigations work. That's how doing your own research works. Okay. The reason why I kept this in and I still did all this, even though I found out I was wrong, is because this is a demonstration of how to do your own research. Okay, how to come to your own conclusion, whether right or wrong. Okay, at least you looked it up and you learned this stuff for yourself. when you don't do that, when you only get the story from one source, it is so easy for somebody to tell you what to think. Okay? We don't want people telling us what to think. That's how we get manipulated. That's how we get propagandized. That's how we get turned into extremists. Okay? Because people are telling you what to think, you're not getting it from any other source. Okay, you're repeating this information in your head. You're building your entire, morality structure and your core tenets based off of false information. 9 times out of 10. Okay. Why is that important? Okay. The reason why this story is getting attention right now is because people are deliberately bringing this story up to take attention away from Charlie Kirk. Okay. Whatever you want to think about Charlie Kirk, that is your business. But you're not going to skip past the fact that when Charlie Kirk died, there were groups of people praising and laughing at him for dying, okay? Because they found themselves not liking things that he allegedly said. Fact, those things aren't true, okay? You will know that, again, if you've heard me say it on my story, you will know that if you actually watch Charlie Kirk, okay? To learn what Charlie Kirk thinks, you should watch Charlie Kirk. You should not watch somebody else showing Charlie Kirk, okay? You should not watch somebody else editing clips together of Charlie Kirk, okay? That is not an accurate representation. Somebody can edit a clip and frame what you say and twist your words around to fit a narrative, and that's exactly what they were doing. People bring this story up to say, oh, why is Charlie Kirk getting so much information? What about these people? Guys, yes, we should be focusing on everybody dying, okay? Obviously, we don't all have the bandwidth to focus on literally all deaths happening all at once. But we should give attention to a lot of people, okay? We should give our attention to people that are dying. However, the circumstances of the deaths are different, okay? For one, again, this person didn't even die. This second grader did not die, okay? He's still alive. Confirmed. I know this. He's still alive, okay? Also, he was not assassinated in front of the entire world, okay? That's apples to oranges. 2 completely different situations. You cannot compare the 2, okay? So that's why Charlie Kirk is getting so much more attention, is because his death has political, economic, and societal implications. Whereas, unfortunately, this little boy's incident was handled privately. Okay, that's why we didn't hear anything about it since last year when it happened. And nobody else heard from it except for local news organizations. So notice, you really need to think about this. Nobody cared about that story until just now. All of a sudden, that story started popping up on social media, and then it kept getting spread. Okay. Now, I could say that I posted that story, but the reason I posted it is different. I posted that story because I wanted to let you all know that I was doing a presentation on it, okay? Also to say that, okay, I'm acknowledging that this happened. Other people are just mindlessly posting it because they see something that fits their narrative, okay? Now, like I was saying, I was wrong. I was able to find the mother on Facebook after I had already finished the slides, and she gives a little update. This is a couple days after the actual incident had taken place last year. Okay, so this incident, I'm going to assume that it's been resolved because there's no other postings on her Facebook account about this. All right, so she says, thanks to the reach of social media, my post received significant attention, and I feel it's important to provide everyone with an update. I have learned the identity of the child involved, but out of respect for his status as a minor, I will not be disclosing his name. So she's keeping his identity private. What I can share is that he is an African American. Okay, so that is an African American boy that committed an act of violence against her son. Okay, I'm not going to say that he hung the boy because we still don't know if he was hung. And I personally think he was strangled. Okay, it would make a little bit more sense that he choked this kid out instead of hanging him. All right. She also says that since the incident, several parents have come forward to report that their own children were also bullied by the same fourth grader, and that they had previously reported these concerns to the school multiple times. Okay, these parents are now willing to share their experiences publicly. I want to emphasize that my voice is not the only one speaking out, and there is a collective concern from multiple families. Alright, so confirmed this was a bully. Alright, this was not no janitor, this was not no other person, there was nobody else in the bathroom as far as we know. Okay, because we still don't have footage. Alright, that would shut me up for good. We still don't have the footage. So we can at least from the mother's point of view say that the fourth grader really did do this. Okay, so again, this fourth grader needs to be studied. Okay, somebody needs to ask this fourth grader what's going on at home, because there's things going wrong. All right, and it's causing them to start choking people out. That is not good. Okay, but what's important about this, to wrap it up, okay, this is how you do your research. Okay, you need to figure out different sources of information. Analyze them, really listen to them, really give them thought. You might change your mind. I feel like people don't read and people don't do their research, okay, because they want to go back to what's comfortable. They don't like being uncomfortable. The truth is in the unknown, okay? You have to be uncomfortable to discover the truth. Being comfortable and learning the truth do not go together, okay? When you go back to what you know or what you've been told, that does not mean it's true. That just means it's familiar. It's comfortable to you. Okay? Get uncomfortable. Go out there. Do your own research. Okay? Sometimes you're going to be right. Sometimes you're going to be wrong. You give it and go. Okay? You got to pick up the ball when you drop it and keep rolling it. All right? I knew I could be wrong about this. I still chose to do it because I had fun, because I was interested in it. Okay? This is something I care about. I acknowledge that I was wrong, and then I move on. Okay? I'm not lashing out at anyone. Okay? I'm not angry at anyone that's saying, "Oh, you was wrong." Okay? I was wrong. That's fine. Guess what? Next time I might not be. Okay? So, with that being said, for those of you who did decide to show up here, thank you. Okay? Anybody else that will be watching this video later, thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoy this presentation. I will be doing another one. I'll let you all know when it takes place, when I'm ready to present it. And I think I'm going to do my investigation, my next one, on the Trey Reed hanging. Okay? So, hopefully you all enjoyed that. Like, comment, subscribe. Okay? See y'all later.